Out with Dave, and no Mekis today, sadly, but I'll explain that a bit later on. Hang on a second. It's all good, don't worry about it. On WZZR Revolution Radio, broadcasting from Australia, jump into the chat room to chat with us while we're on air. That's a bit of a mouthful, I should rewrite that. And discuss the topics we bring and see the links we share during the show. This is show number 445. Can't believe it's been that many shows. And Mekis would say 540 and 400. It's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. If you miss Solaris' show, it's awesome as usual. And she had her monthly Cyber Witch Cafe with Montana Jordan and herself. And there was one missing person today. Let me just have a look. Nish, that's right. Nish couldn't make it. There is, oh my goodness, what have I done to my? Oh yes, that's right. So, archives are currently available now on the new method of access. So follow the station's website link. And there's Patreon access, believe it or not. That's what we're talking about here. So you can get access to the Freedom Slips archives, where you can get Solaris's show, you can get our shows, and all of the hosts' shows that air on Revolution Radio. And they're looking. I've got a bunch of our archives, and I've put most of ours on YouTube, but they're going to be there with all the others on the Revolution Radio one. We're going to go back as far as we can too, so that it becomes a full archive. Now, there's only a few hosts, I think, that have beaten us. They were already established before Mekis and I joined, so long ago now. And it's a tremendous place. It's a great place to share ideas and collaborate. Join by calling into the roundtables. And there's the segue of the year. Tonight is a roundtable. No Mekis, so you're all welcome to dial in. It's a roundtable, so you can use the appropriate numbers within that are advertised on the Freedom Slips website, and you can call those from your landlines in the US. Here in Australia, I think you add freedom screen, like the word freedom. They cannot take our freedom. You can use freedom screen as in a screen door, and that's an identity you can use in Skype if you have Skype. You can just the free Skype is fine, and then if you try to call it comes through to me, and I accept it, and voila, away we go. So you can join in, and I do ask just for the respect of those, and once we have a couple of callers, that's going to be really, really difficult to add that. All of my Skypes are ringing at the same time, except for my PC, of course. Let's see if I can add that. It's not letting me add. I will bring you in. I'll bring you in. So just hang on a second. I'm sure I can do that. All right. So I ask that what we do is we respect each other. We have rules. I certainly have rules. I've got really strict roundtable rules. No rants for greater than 1 minute, and you pass it back to me, and I'm the guy with the microphone, the talking stick, and I'll call you in turn. You will not miss out. Try not to talk over each other, and if you disagree, just wait your turn. You'll get a turn to agree or disagree or make your point. And sometimes that's really hard to hold on to a thought. Write it down. Have a pen and paper and write it down, or a pencil if you like, and paper, and write it down. Write your thoughts down, and we will get to you. It will happen. So, and I'll welcome everyone. So when I pull you in, just sit tight, and then I'll introduce you. And if you message me the name you'd like to be known as, otherwise I'll use your Skype name. All right. Or if you use a mobile, like a phone number, I'll just use the last 4 characters of your number to call who you are, unless you announce yourself. So, and that can be quite difficult in some cases. Now, I also ask that you stay on mute if you're using Skype until I call you. All right. So that's pretty cool. Next, the last piece of the intro, which is that Meki and I, part of Shiny Side Out, together we are Shiny Side Out. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, and where I live it's the Dark and Yung, and where Meki lives it's the Daruk people, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and future. And let us remember that beneath everything that this civilization has created are the lands of which at least 240,000 generations handed down oral stories of the origin of humans. And you have to consider what that means. And when a story has music and it has rhyme and there's a thing, it's like error correction. It won't allow a difference. So, for instance, the rhyme in a song doesn't allow you to change the words out because it breaks the rhyme. And that is the kind of stories that were handed down to keep their integrity for so long. 80,000 years, possibly more, and we keep going back to 350,000, and it'll just keep going. It'll just keep adding. And as we find out more, and Meki and I believe that we'll at least get to the 1 million or the 2 million years ago, maybe even 3 million years ago, where humans shared the planet with other hominids at the time. It's proof based. So while we've been talking about this, there's biological evidence that's out there where bones are found in a strata between lava layers, for instance, and that's the dating of those bones which showed modern human features are still discounted by some of the historians, and don't want to believe that it's true because they're trying to stick to the thing that they made all their money off. They have tenure, they've got grants, they've got a belief, then they're going to be damned if they're going to be thrown off that throne. There you go, thrown off the throne. Budged from the throne, because how are they going to appear to their peers, right? So I'm doing a lot of doubling today. Anyway, so that's the intro done. And I just want to thank everyone for welcoming me into your life in some way, shape or form. It's not a love story, just, I prefer to try to keep this informational. All right, I've got two people. I'm going to introduce Steve. Let me just get this up. Steve, welcome to Shiny Side Out.
What's good, Dave?
Thanks, man. Thanks for calling in. I'm looking forward to doing a roundtable tonight. I've got about 4 news stories, and then and at the end of these, each of them, feel free to comment. If you've heard Meki and I in our show, I'll read the story out, and then we have a little discussion about it. And if there's more to bring out, we'll bring it out. If there's more comments to have, we'll have those comments, and then I go to the next story and so on, and it keeps running, right? So there's only 4 stories at the moment, and I'll get to those shortly. Going to bring Harry in as well, and hopefully Harry is welcome to go by Harry, which is pretty funny if he hadn't. And I've already let the cat out of the bag, but here we go. We're bringing Harry in. So, Harry, hey, welcome to Shiny Side Out. I think he's still muted. Yeah, he's still muted, all right. Let me see. Oh, I can't unmute him manually. It's beyond. All right, when Harry's ready, that's no dramas. Now, I'll tell you about Meki first. Meki. Hello. Oh, there's Harry. That's okay, Harry. Go on.
Oh, sorry. I just switching between screens, trying to get the button off the player.
Yeah.
And Skype.
Yeah, no, not a problem at all. So I do Skype and Teams meetings every single day, maybe more than one would think is humanly possible. And in every single meeting, there is, can you hear me? Can you see my screen? And some people say yes and no. And then some people invite people to talk. And the next thing is, we can't hear you. You must be muted. Every single meeting.
Yeah.
For the last 7 months. And I've got a little pad and I tick them. The other thing I tick is as soon as someone says, I write 3 columns, are, and there's another one that they do, and it's long pauses, and that's very funny. So I start ticking them every time someone says it, and I put names down. It's very funny. You should see it. I've got, some people like hundreds of ums in about half an hour, and it's very difficult to listen to someone when they're trying to deliver a point, and the point is punctuated by those. And they said at the end, "Did you have any questions?" I said, "Why did you say 312 times?" And they said, "I didn't know I was saying them."
Did you? He used to get that sheet that distributed around in the 90s.
The bingo?
Called, the bingo. Yeah. That was a classic. You could just laugh. It just make the meeting go really good. In fact.
So drill down was one of the topics.
Yeah, drill down.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Synergy was a big one.
Oh yes, synergy. Yeah. Yes, of course. It's because someone sold a book with these, the art of synergy in the workplace.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. CIA. Yes, I know.
That's right. 3-letter agency, and the next thing is we've all got to say it and all got to do it.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing as about project management. So there was waterfall and all these other things. I think TOGAF or something, and now there's agile. And agile means you can abandon everything you used to do because now there's this new thing we all have to do. And people who aren't even aware of what it is, they say, "Oh, is this project going to be agile?" And you go, "Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's agile, all right."
Is that an Australian thing?
Not really. You'd think so, but
I think it's a Coke-filled brainstorm or some switch somewhere.
So it's a corporate. It's like a corporate environment thing.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very corporate, right? And so what it is now, agile is you have scrums every morning. So it's like a rugby term where you all huddle together. It's just a huddle, and you post-it note everything on the wall as separate objectives, and you task them out to people, and they've got to move. It's so silly. And they've got to move it from one place to another to show the completion. So through the stages of each one of these pieces. And then the idea of agility is actually to accomplish the most with the least effort first, and then you fill in the gaps later. So you end up with the skeleton functionality of whatever it is. I don't even know what it is. You get the most of it out there first. And so then the feature set at the end, the thing that makes it, or it changes it from being one thing to another, or it's either like or dislike your competition, whatever it happens to be. If it's a software program, it might be the additional buttons or functionality within the software, right? All of those things end up at the end. So yeah, we made a platform, no one can use it. Can we make it at least that something work on it? Yeah. That we can get that tomorrow. Great.
Down where I come from in Fraggle Rock, we call that the silly people.
So anyway, look, I'm not poo-pooing the methodology because it gets projects done, and it's sort of the way it should have always been done. Waterfall means you've got to complete one thing before you can complete the next thing, and all projects have a mixture of all of this at the same time. But, when someone who doesn't know what they're talking about says, "Is this project agile?" you just say yes. Because if you say no, that's going to go upwards in corporate and then come down on me like 1,000-fold. Why? They said you said no. No to what? Agile. No, it's definitely agile. I just said no to that person. Because they don't even know what it is. Tell me what I didn't do, because everything... If you heard the description of the project about there being morning scrums and weekly reporting and monthly, I forget the other term for that, and you have a scrum master, I've even named it, and then they ask me if it's agile, yeah, good luck. Because those things aren't available in any other project management methodology. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Sorry.
As a ride share, a guy who does Uber and Lyft in an affluent business area,
Mm-hmm.
before before COVID, when everybody was, commuting to offices and airports and things like that.
I remember those days.
God damn that. Yeah, I'm hearing all that jargon, like two coworkers in the back seat or some guy on the phone and just all this weird jargon. It's just like, you make a lot of money to speak babble.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Somehow it makes somebody have a bottom line, and that's why you make a lot of money to be a silly person.
Do you know what, Steve? That's absolutely right. So there are people who are just paid to make sure they say the right word salad. Because that's all it is. It's just word salad.
Yeah.
The actual task getting done, and it also makes people feel very important. I mean, really important. In fact, if the entire world came to the Stone Age again, if that was tomorrow, these people would have nothing. I would imagine they would group together, the poorest of the poor and say, okay, now today what we're going to do, we're going to get these, we don't have any post-it notes. We're just going to use this wall and some, we don't have any of those. We're going to use, burnt sticks. And we're going to project out the water collection and the food collection and the, dwellings. We're going to make dwellings. But first I need this team. They're going to be project management. And they're not going to be particularly good at the political side of having a commune, or they're not going to be able to get people together other than for their own benefit. Do you know what I'm saying? It won't be for the collective. It'll be just for them. And they'll be turning around looking for praise from their bosses, and there won't be any. So I really have a hard time sometimes with what the shape of the world would look like between the doers and the people that believe that they're maybe, have more worth in a society like that. They're just going to be collecting stuff too. Well, you'd hope so. So you're not going to make an autocracy. Who's going to stand for that, right? When we're back to the Stone Age. Because they're the first person you eat on the barbecue, aren't they?
I don't know whichever age involves the least amount of nonsense and fascism. I'm good with whatever age that is. Do I have to throw out that age? Fine.
I was reminded this week. I was going to make it somber first. I'm going to bring it down to being a little somber. So this week saw the 56th birthday of Nighthawk. Sadly, he passed. He's the creator of Revolution Radio, and I just wanted to tip my hat to such an awesome guy who put all of this together and gathered all of the minds that we know that have been here, are still here, and have also passed themselves. So I know that we've had a lot of hosts that have passed away, as well as the owner. And thankfully, I'm still here. If I'm not, look at the 3-letter agencies. I swear. If it weren't for him, if it weren't for Nighthawk, this platform wouldn't exist. I don't think I would have gone anywhere else. I think that I found this place, this home, for a good reason. And Liz, I know it can't be easy to have lost a great man like that. And so I told you I'd make it somber. And Steve and Harry, if you have anything to add, please go ahead.
Hawk hated it when we acted differently around him, and his ghost is like, "Dude, what are you doing? Just don't laugh." I pooped my ghost pants yesterday. It was funny.
Yeah. Do you know, I didn't, if it weren't for COVID, it was this year that I was going over to the US. So I'd made plans for this year to fly to the US, to California, drive across all through, Tahoe and California, Tahoe, up through Kentucky, then down through Florida with the family, and then going to go cruising around back to California again and then come home. And I was going to meet up with as many people as I could from the radio station, and finally, meet all the admin team as well, Mona Rattler and a whole bunch in the background, and even catch up with Tones, but all of this fell through because we can't leave the country now. Our country is still in lockdown. So,
yeah.
This it's been crazy. I bet it was going to be this year. Goodness me. I wonder what that sounds like. I'm going to be nice and say it sounds like a washing machine or something. Let's just hope that's what it was, John. Thank you.
I just realized. Okay.
I just want to say about Hawk 2
Yep.
that it's another living legend that lives on, I suppose.
Yeah.
And because that's the way I look at it. Because my father died about 7 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And that's the way I've dealt with his death too. Is like, is that they go on in the spirit to even do greater things. And because we're eternal beings at the end of the day, and that's what I want to say. Basically, it's just a lot of admiration, obviously, for the ingenuity and the brilliance and the sheer hard determination to keep this running as well.
And then we have to thank, obviously, all of the listeners and all of those contributors to the station as well, because they've put such a they've kept it rolling this whole time as well. And look, I can't say this enough, and every show I say it, but I really do mean it. And that is to support the station. It's easy. You either subscribe to the archives for a monthly fee, or you make donations, or you purchase something from the website. And each one of those will provide sustenance so that the station can continue. And now there's cloud services involved, and so they aren't free. Before, it was being run from Nighthawk's house, but with cloud services and subscriptions to other services to be able to get the messages out. Now it's primarily now in the cloud, so you don't make a payment; it just gets deleted. So make all the effort you can to subscribe. I know that I subscribe, so that's how I contribute. I'm also a host, so I contribute that way as well. And let's just not forget what it is and how it was built and how we can keep it running. That's probably the best way to put it. So Mekis isn't here tonight because he has now a third child. His wife delivered their child on Friday afternoon, and it's a boy, and that's all I'll say. I'll let Mekis give away the rest of that. So his third, and in these trying times, we chat, and he's this is tough. These are tough times right now. We don't know what the shape of the world's going to be afterwards, and if Agenda 21 is anything to be, if we hold that to truth, to the truth window, whatever that shape of this place looks like, I think the more the merrier. They can get us through that, the better. But knowing what it means, that's not what it means. The 500 million globally. So what is going to happen? I thought the virus might be it, but the virus is the first news topic that I've got, and just going to say, I want to outline that the numbers that I provide each week are simply from the Johns Hopkins University data. Nowhere else I don't get it from anywhere else, although I know other numbers exist. I'm just using the ones that the medical fraternity have their eyes pointed at. This is the eyes on glass config. Now, knowing also that people who have been tested positive for the virus may die and is still counted as a COVID-19 death, it may not have been the cause of death. So I take these numbers really lightly. I don't know. I think the deaths are far less than the deaths that have been reported, because it's not the cause of death. These are just people who have died with it. Also, the number of infections, I believe, is way higher, like probably 10 million higher at least because there were certain criteria that only allowed you to be tested if you showed symptoms. That means that excluded asymptomatic people. That also in the beginning they didn't have enough tests anyway, so they were telling you only if you had contact or had been overseas. So all the people who had the virus at that point were refused testing ability, and they may have just gotten through this completely unscathed, just as asymptomatic as most people are. In fact, it's higher than 95% of the people who have come in contact, who have been tested positive and confirmed cases, who have then been, not asymptomatic, but have survived. So we're talking at the moment, I think it's only 4.2% is the current case fatality rate of tested cases within the data that I'm looking at on Johns Hopkins. Because I'm doing all the calculations every day. I collect 188 numbers and I put them all into my spreadsheet. I've got a spreadsheet. And when I look at it, I have to say, I know it's real because I've got friends in medical here in Australia who have been on the cases where people have the actual virus, but they're also telling us that only very, very few, like 10% of the people of the 4.2% who pass away, there's a whole number, about 10% of the people go into hospital care because they're not doing very well, and around about half of those people end up passing.
Is your data looking like the data that I think I'm looking at, where this is thus far going to be just like any annual flu season when you simply have a new flu that's just a little bit more agitated? Because at the end of the day, the numbers, people will ignore the numbers, and their comfort in their fear will go to the conspiracy theory of a lab in Wuhan, which it's true. It came from a lab in Wuhan.
Yeah.
But a weapons developer can make a BB gun and he can make an atomic bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And I argue that we're dealing with the BB gun of contagions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. So the thing that I noted initially when it first broke, that we were having a case fatality rate of 70%. Because I've got graphs for this. And the graph showed 70% case fatality rate. That was while it was still primarily in China. And the reason for that is they only tested people that got to hospital because they were really ill. So that was saving only 30%. That's the way to look at it. Plus they weren't testing everybody. As we started testing more people, just like Donald Trump said, we need to test more people. And that is actually a thing when you look at the numbers. In Australia, they reckon that there was 60,000 extra people. We had to count to 26,000. So that would, make it 86,000 people. Well, that brings the case fatality rate down to about maybe 1.5% when you look at the numbers. Imagine in the US, because at the moment, the recovered, I think you've broken 7 million as cases. You've got 204,000 deaths, but remember what I said earlier. Then you've got 2.7 million who have recovered, whatever that means, to be honest, because it may have an ongoing or secondary effect, or maybe triggered by a third thing that comes along. You're right, Steve, in that if this is so almost innocuous, right? If it has such a low case fatality rate, and it's not 70% or 20% or what have you, and it's untreatable, which is what the nuke could be. It could be this could have had you bleeding through your skin. It could have had you, brain swelling, like encephalitis. It could have had something like a mixture of West Nile virus, where you get scar tissue in your muscles, and brain damage with scar tissue, and lung damage with scar tissue. Well, I've got that already because I've had pneumonia twice. So my doctor pointed that out to me when I had some MRIs, and I've had some medical issues this year, surprisingly, and I've had a number of MRIs, and full body ones, and down to the less than a half a millimeter slice or something, and they've been discovering all sorts of things. So I'm living with a spinal crush injury that I complained to my doctor 15 years ago that I had pain in my back, and he goes, nothing, it's nothing, don't worry about it. You walked in here, you can walk back out. Yeah, good on you. Can I have a second opinion? And he goes, yeah, I stand with the first one. So this is, it's a joke, all jokes aside, that's real. That actually happened. That actually happened. But my point is if we found and we were able to test every person in each country right now to look for antibodies and then mark them on a list that said they never got tested, but we found them to have antibodies to coronavirus, or let's call it what it really is, SARS-CoV-2 virus. That's the actual virus name. COVID-19 is the disease that you present after contracting the virus. So if we found all those people who had antibodies,
is the family of viruses.
That's correct.
Part of. That's how convoluted they screwed with your head, because they like trapping you in your left brain little mouse wheel mechanisms and
love your wording, Steve.
And problem solve in the right brain.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole point here is that the case fatality rate is absolutely really low. So it isn't, I think it's more than normal flu. When I was looking up that normal flu is 0.02% case fatality rate. And I don't think we're going to get down as low as that. I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting. You don't have to stay unmuted. You may join in, because I can't, all I see is caller. So sorry, was that you, Harry?
No, this is John.
Oh, John, welcome. Welcome,
Dave,
John,
I've
to Shiny Side Out.
been here for now 40 minutes and text in our Skype text box.
Yeah.
And we discussed the rules from the beginning. You said, and I've text, can I have the talking stick?
I'm sorry.
And I had to interrupt, which I promised I wouldn't do.
Well, guess what? Your talking stick is with you now.
No, because there's others that I asked to come in the call that I'd like to give their opinion. John Z is here, and then Harry. I haven't heard from them. After them, I'd love to just have 2-3 seconds.
Guess what? Stay unmuted. Let's roll. I think we're
I thought you were a producer. I thought you were a producer, and that's why you were so quiet, because I thought David mentioned you.
No, well, I had a chat with Dave, just being Australians, and I'm in Victoria with the lockdown.
Yeah.
So's Harry. And they're testing us, man. I can tell you what's coming to you, and it's not very nice.
Yeah,
because you've got weapons.
They're living. So in Australia, in Victoria, it's the lockdown state of lockdown states. It's like East Germany, but pre-war Nazi Germany styled lockdown with heavy police tactics, overuse of force, and ridiculous laws that mean that you can be arrested and pummeled to the ground with 8 officers just for not wearing a mask. It is, honestly, they're the SS of Nazi Germany, but Australian police, who knew?
Is it a resisting arrest thing, or do they warn you and threaten you first?
No,
Steve. They'll just tackle you. They'll just tackle.
They will do whatever. If you're not complying to the written law, they don't care who you are, what you're doing, or what your appearance is. They will take you to the ground and arrest you.
There's an omnibus bill being pushed through Parliament at the moment.
That's right.
Exactly. Tell them, Harry, this is
the
scariest thing I've ever seen in my 60 years.
Yeah.
And and we've seriously got, if minus the mustache, that could be Stalin up there like a little Muppet.
Yeah.
And
I asked John before the call whether he was growing a little mustache.
Yeah, hang on, I've got something somewhere. I made my own little meme the other day. I couldn't help myself.
I saw a clip from your top cop.
Yeah.
Like a couple weeks ago. I was horrified at his attitude. absolutely horrified. Does anybody in Australia that's not on the consciousness spectrum have any level of awareness of the varying degrees of liberty that is happening here in the United States, where, like, I mean, Pennsylvania's and Florida seem to be on the verge of calling it like the end of the quarantine right now, and like, you know, like I'm in a fairly heavier kind of paranoid state in on the East Coast, and you know, like I do pretty well without the mask even in businesses, to the point, like, you've seen my Facebook. I go shopping and I'm the only a-hole in the store without a mask on, and a couple times you'll catch me dropping my 96 HIPAA rights. In America, if you have a personal medical condition, it's a private matter. Nobody can ask you for it. And so basically, unless they want to litigate, as far as they know, they're discriminating against you, and they're supposed to be aware of this. And some of them are. Some of them probably aren't even aware of it, but they're just kind people and say, oh, he's got a medical condition, right? So I roll with that, because my medical condition is that I need to breathe properly. And don't tell me to put on a scarf, because not even your N95 mask works, because the virus is 0.2 microns.
Yeah, and also it escapes out all of the sides anyway. That's what it does.
The funny thing is, you know, the CDC stacks have got chloroquine right on the CDC website as a potent inhibitor of the SARS-2 virus. So it's written right there, right on the website. It's not like, and that's all the evidence anyone needs to overthrow this ridiculous regime.
Yeah, so the hydroxychloroquine, let's call it HTC. Was it HCQ? Yeah, hydroxy. Yeah, so HTQ.
No, this is chloroquine. This is chloroquine. Well, this is straight off the CDC. Yeah. I'll put it in the...
Yeah, cool. Put it in the chat. But hydroxychloroquine, which is the anti-malaria drug, it's a preventative for that. What it does, it carries zinc into the cells and prevents the virus from replicating its RNA. It takes I know all about this. So it takes 3 replications to make a copy of itself. It's a third that makes the actual living copy. That is inhibited by zinc. Zinc bumps into the replication process and chops it off. So you end up with this, like the cutting room floor of a movie. It's all little choplets, right? Little tiny bits that can't be a virus. That's what it does. It does very well. And what it does, it brings down the viral bloom. So if you have the virus, it's going exponential in you, and your body cannot control it at all. Hydroxychloroquine and zinc together allows your body to prevent it from replicating any longer, and then your body's able then to slowly get past the virus. It's able to capture it slowly. It takes a long time. But you can get beads of red blood cells that are connected by the virus, because it connects to and locks on. And then another blood cell, bumps into the other side of it, and then it makes a long chain, and this is the thrombosis people are experiencing, and blood clots and aneurysms and all sorts of hideous things from it. So yeah, it's really, really bad. Passing it back to you guys, I'm just going to say Australian hospitals are using the drug, but in Victoria, they made it illegal to prescribe it from a GP, not in hospitals, but from a GP for use. Isn't it crazy, Harry?
It really is just a strategy, is to funnel us all in and pen us all in like sheep to get the shot, basically. Get tagged and released again.
Who's going to make the money? Who's going to make the money off it?
Well,
Big Pharma, right?
We know where the money goes. As everyone who listens to the show knows where the money goes. It's always to the people who have the money. So
here's the thing that makes.
What about the total control, where this new bill in Parliament will give a private army that has greater power than the police force or the army?
Yeah.
So we have these private people that are contracted willy-nilly without any qualifications that I can see to decide which neighbour lives in his house or doesn't. This is Unheard
remember,
of.
they can extract you from your house.
Look, when this first started, I'm busting chops trying to get hold of people to get some sort of, coup d'etat happening. Seriously, because I want Brendan Murray involved and other people involved with the whole process. Because it's about having a Tararan ceremony again that gave the land to the people, the Batman Treaty, whatever, and invoking that. And we can do it through the First Nations Assembly.
Nice.
First Nations Assembly. But in order to do that, we've got to sort of cloak and dagger it and get disguised and go in there. And actually, once we arrest these people, who do we hand them to? We need to get the right people in the know, in the right channels, either military, police, or, Governor General level, or a bishop,
The hard thing is to know where that control stops. So who's a friendly up there?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know who's who in the zoo at all. But this is the strategy I've been trying to, even just on Facebook groups, trying to work out. But no one's got back to me, so I don't know. But I can't do it on my own,
No, just be careful, because remember, incitement, you got to be very careful.
Oh, look, I'm incited, all right. I'm incited to, you want incitement, I'll give you incitement, okay?
Yeah. But that's what's very difficult about it is incitement can be used for almost anything. And I don't know, Steve, if you're familiar, I know that John, you'd be familiar with it. Those, the poor mum who was, they entered a house and took her by force, and all the electronic devices in the house, and handcuffed her in front of her kids and took her away, just for organising a peaceful, safe COVID, I can't help it, but COVID safe, wearing masks, social distancing protest in a country town where everyone knows each other anyway, right? So,
right.
I mean, goodness me, that's when I started watching police state fascist kind of thing, dictatorship, fascist style. Turn in your friend. Why?
Before COVID,
we lived a happy life before this.
Who was the establishment in Australia threatened by before COVID came through, right? Because we got this whole populist movement thing with various forms of freedom-loving, much more conscientious type of conservative types or whatever, they emerging up in this country's constant battle with the left we have over here, but we're winning. Even with COVID, we're winning. It does feel like we're fighting back in a civil way for our freedoms, and I do have to say that for whatever reason that this president, who we knows what the F is going on. He's not a puppet. He's, he could be the bad guy. He may not even necessarily be the chief bad guy. My point is that he knows, but he's moving in a direction of it's like courage. It's like, see, America, we're over here. Some of us got masks on, some of us don't, but we're all happy. We're trying to be, human again. We know the threat at its level. We're not scared. That's literally the attitude. Trump is starting to pack these peaceful protests on the airports and stuff, right? And this is my point. Does anybody in Australia have any goddamn inspiration for their own country in this way, and some sort of your freedoms seriously, and science, dissenting scientific consent. Oh my God, you guys, I'm scared for you.
Yeah.
Effing A, I'm scared, man.
Why? I don't consider any of the rules, except some of the constitutional ones, anything to do with me. Yet I follow them because I don't wish to attract attention. There's no reason to open your mouth. If you know what's going on, do what you can.
Yeah, it's a good point, John.
Australia's...
There's the distinct difference between Australia and the US wasn't our multiculturalism, and it wasn't our style of government, because they were extremely similar. We have a two-party preferred system. We don't have a council. a council would make us distinctly different. Yes, as a president, however, and there's no opposition to argue them all for every single thing they do while they're in power, except that seems to be the case with Nancy Pelosi. And anyone who was emotionally connected to Hillary during that still seems to think that they've got a voice to argue against everything that Trump says, despite them, for the most part, not even voting. So here it's all compulsory. But outside of those, we were very, very alike. But the US, apart from the gun laws, which we had gun buyback, and it's really hard to get any kind of serious weapon at home, unless you're a farmer or you live on the land or you're engaged in hunting, for instance. Outside of that, and the other one, the thought that we had freedom of speech, which we don't. The thought that we had freedom of the press, which we don't. It's all now money driven, and if you're upsetting your audience, you're out.
Dave.
Go on. Yes, mate.
Dave, did we not at some stage? You talk about multiculturalism, but I see that part of the original infection, and it's created political parties or idealism that's not relevant to what this country was supposed to be about.
Completely, John, and I completely agree. Yep.
The left's got in here and the greenies and all that, and I understand looking after the planet, but the Greens got no idea how to do that. They just want to make money.
So in Australia, just one quick point. The only person who went up against the government, against the multiculturalism, she was forced into jail by a false accusation that she had to end up doing jail time for, and they have dirt on everybody, and when you go against them, doesn't matter who you are, they'll throw you in jail. And that's kind of like the Philippines, right? Is it Philippines, Malaysia?
And we wonder why we're here now. The plan was set a long time ago. It's got to be reset time, let's hope.
But it's Harry.
Sorry, Dave, I interrupted you.
Yeah.
Oh, Harry.
It is reset time because the Great Australian Party has backed the Aboriginal elders in Darwin. They've served notice on the government up there, and basically said, your quasi-government, get out. We don't want you here anymore. So it's actually started. So backed by the Great Australian Party, and so hopefully it will follow suit. This is exactly what I've been saying. In this state of emergency, we have the ability, if we have the right people, like I've got no problem performing a citizen's arrest on anybody, because I think about our future and the direction that it's going, okay? And if we're going to get these, half-wits and nuff knuckles to run us all into oblivion, well, there's got to be some decent people out there, and the only way we can do that is to make a stand, And I know that I'm decent enough to make a stand, and there are a lot of other people.
But on what platform?
But the strategy is to get the Indigenous people to announce, first of all, under the state of emergency, once they're arrested, under the state of emergency, announce, the reconciliation of all the different nations in Victoria, at least, in Victoria state of emergency, and do the Taram ceremony and hand back the land, ask them what the laws of the land are, and then look as a state of emergency against everything else that contradicts these laws of the land. So in other words, we're looking at it from the lens on the inside out of a governance from an Indigenous point of view, which counteracts all mercantile trade and laws and the laws of the sea, and because you're putting back the laws of the land into the country. And then we can move forward. Then we can invite the developments for the new technologies to come forward, and which is all going to happen anyway, but at least we've got the opportunity, taken the opportunity that's been presented to us and struck and used it in the way in God's principles or principles of nature or principles for creation, and do it in a way that's not, we don't want to kill anyone. We just want to arrest them and get them processed for crimes against humanity, you know, for your subjugation, subterfuge and fear, you know, inciting subterfuge and fear, all the other stuff. So, you know, this can actually be achieved, but the window is getting thinner and thinner as we move on. And I just don't know anyone. So it's a shout out there, anyone who's listening in Melbourne. You know, shout out to God, help us, you know, get together and, you know, and really seriously take something forward, because a lot of us have had experience in all walks of life. And the whole idea is not me or anyone else to actually take control. It's about setting up a quorum of at least 100 people, maybe 12 points, you know, 12 regions. So 120 people from all over, you know, and managing it, you know, from a community level back to state. So it's set up in the proper way.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a number of issues with our politics, which it's too short a term, because the term length determines their ability to get things done, but it also means we have to put up with them longer if we were to extend that. The term length is so short that it's only for just to keep them in power. So the first year is to do all the things they said, then the next year is to do whatever they want. That's go against everything they've ever said. And then the last one is gift year again, when we come into being voted in again. If there was a council, it would be much that the visionary length of time that the projects would have to be part of their management would be much longer periods of time, 10, 20 years. Their objectives would be long-term objectives rather than these short-term wins, the gains that only get them to be re-elected. And so everything is so poorly thought through. The other thing is there is no visibility of their process. You know, Hamilton sang it best in the musical. It happened behind the door, right? The closed door. I wish I was in the room where it happened. That's the actual lyric. And if we saw when things were being decided and what choices they had, or they made that it was completely transparent, you could actually see the choices they had, and we voted on them, and they don't make the choice, all the people vote on it. That'd be so much better. We have means now to be able to vote on things, not anonymously, but with our best intentions behind it. We have a way of being able to drive a political system now, or our governance of our countries, in ways that we never thought before, because it was just too much hassle to go down to the voting booth and vote for a referendum. And the wording was so complicated that it basically, you know, nullified 30% of the people who read it and thought they were answering one way, but it was in fact the other way, because you know, double negatives and the lack of confidence in a question being simple. So I think there's certainly a lot of scope for us to improve the way we look after the land, the management, delete money from politics, make it illegal to donate money to government so that they become completely impartial, have every one of their activities 100% monitored financially for any gain that they may acquire, and make it lawful. Make it so that, you know what, you'll either burn at the stake or we'll put you through a mincer live on television, right? Should you accept 1 cent from anyone and then favorably change your mind on a decision that's going to, you know, enable that company to, you know, bulldoze your forests and kill koalas, right? When the whole world doesn't want us to kill our koalas off. You know what I'm saying? And some of these, oh, there's the music. But we'll see you after a short break. This is Shiny Side Out with David Mekis, though Mekis absent. We're having a round table. After the short break, don't forget to listen in. We've got another whole hour going. All right? These guys are going to stay here if they can. We'll see you after the short break.